Welcome to the Books Bible Study. We are continuing in Leviticus Chapter 11. Verse 1 reads, Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, verse 2, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the animals which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. So remember, in the beginning, in Genesis, we were not eating animals, right? We were just eating plants. God did not permit the eating of animals until Genesis 9 after the flood, right? So now we will find out what animals they were permitted to eat at that time. Verse 3 says, Among the animals, whatever divides the hoof, having cloven hooves, and chewing the cud, that you may eat. So cloven hooves are hooves that are split into two distinct toes, right? Two halves. So instead of being one solid hoof, it's split into two. So an example of these would be cattle, sheep, goats, deer, right? Verse 4 says, Nevertheless, these you shall not eat among those that chew the cud or those that have cloven hooves. The camel, because it chews the cud, but it does not have cloven hooves, it is unclean to you. So it couldn't have either. Okay, so verse 5, it says, The rock hyrax. This is a small furry animal that lives in the rocky areas of Africa and the Middle East, and it looks like a large guinea pig or a rabbit. So you can't eat the rock hyrax because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves. It is unclean to you. Verse 6, the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, it is unclean to you. Verse 7, and the swine, though it divides the hoof, having cloven hooves, yet it does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. So animals that chew the cud, they eat grass or plants quickly and swallow it, and the food goes into the stomach chamber, and then later the animal brings the partially digested food back up and chews it again to break it down further. So that's what it means when it says chews the cud. Verse 8 says, Their flesh you shall not eat, and their carcasses you shall not touch. They are unclean to you. So even a dead one you cannot touch. Verse 9 says, These you may eat of all that are in the water. Whatever in the water has fins and scales, whether in the seas or in the rivers, that you may eat. Verse 10, But all in the seas or in the rivers that do not have fins and scales, all that move in the water, or any living thing which is in the water, they are an abomination to you. So the sea animals that do not have fins are shrimp, crab, lobster, crab, oysters, scallops, right? The sea animals that do not have scales are catfish, sharks, eels, and sturgeon. So these are the animals they were not permitted to eat. Verse 11 says, They shall be an abomination to you. You shall not eat their flesh, but you shall regard their carcasses as an abomination. Verse 12, Whatever in the water does not have fins and scales, that shall be an abomination to you. And so an abomination is something that is detestable, it is forbidden, it is unholy according to God, right? And it violates your covenant with him. Verse 13 says, And these you shall regard as an abomination among the birds. They shall not be eaten, they are an abomination. The eagle, the vulture, the buzzard. Verse 14, the kite. The kite is a medium-sized raptor related to the hawks, right? And the falcon after its kind. Verse 15, every raven after its kind. Verse 16, the ostrich, the short-eared owl, the seagull, and the hawk after its kind. Verse 17, the little owl, the fisher owl, and the screech owl. Verse 18, the white owl, the jackdaw. The jackdaw is another intelligent bird related to the crows and ravens. And the carrion vulture. Carrion is dead animals. So those types of vultures. 19, the stork, the heron after its kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. Verse 20, all flying insects that creep on all fours shall be an abomination to you. Verse 21, yet these you may eat of every flying insect that creeps on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet with which to leap on the earth. Verse 22, these you may eat, the locust after its kind, the destroying locust after its kind, the cricket after its kind, and the grasshopper after its kind. Verse 23, but all other flying insects which have 4 feet shall be an abomination to you. Verse 24, By these you shall become unclean. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them shall be unclean until evening. So evening, they're saying you shall be unclean until sunset. Okay. Verse 25 says, whoever carries part of the carcass of any of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. Verse 26, the carcass of any animal which divides the foot, but is not cloven-hoofed, or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Everyone who touches it shall be unclean. No carcasses, right, of these unclean animals shall you touch, or you shall be unclean. Verse 27 says, and whatever goes on its paws among all kinds of animals that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Whoever touches any such carcass shall be unclean until evening. Verse 28. Whoever carries any such carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. It is unclean to you. How many times is he going to say, this is unclean, right? It's unclean, it's unclean, it's unclean. If God says do not touch it, it's unclean. It doesn't matter what it is, right? If he says don't touch it, this goes for everything, every person. Okay, verse 29 says, these also shall be unclean to you among the creeping things that creep on the earth, the mole, the mouse, and the large lizard after its kind. Verse 30, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the sand reptile, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. Verse 31, these are unclean to you among all that creep. Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until evening. Verse 32, anything on which any of them falls when they are dead shall be unclean, whether it is any item of wood or clothing or skin or sack. Whatever item it is in which any work is done, it must be put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening. Then it shall be clean. Verse 33, any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, you shall break, and whatever is in it shall be unclean. So these dead carcasses of these particular animals that God calls unclean cannot even touch the dishes that you will use, or you have to break them. Okay, verse 34. And if anything is in the dishes, when the carcass falls in it, though that's unclean as well. Okay, verse 34. In such a vessel, any edible food upon which water falls becomes unclean, and any drink that may be drunk from it becomes unclean. So God is very serious about what he decides is clean or unclean, right? And definitely not touching dead things, dead abominable things. Verse 35, and everything on which a part of any such carcass falls shall be unclean, whether it is an oven or cooking stove, it shall be broken down, for they are unclean and shall be unclean to you. Verse 36, nevertheless, a spring or a cistern in which there is plenty of water shall be clean, but whatever touches any such carcass becomes unclean. Verse 37, and if a part of any such carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it remains clean. Verse 38, but if water is put on the seed, and if a part of any such carcass falls on it, it becomes unclean to you. So long as water does not get on it, when it touches it, it is still clean. If water gets on it, it is unclean. Verse 39, and if any animal which you may eat dies, he who touches its carcass shall be unclean until evening. So even the ones that you can eat, okay? Again, when it says until evening, that's until sunset. Verse 40, he who eats of his carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. He also who carries his carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. So y'all remember when Aaron's sons died, they did not carry them out. The uncles carried them out, carried the two sons out, right? Because they were still performing the duties, so they could not make themselves unclean, right? Do y'all remember that in the last chapter? Verse 41 says, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Verse 42, whatever crawls on its belly, whatever goes on all fours, or whatever has many feet among all creeping things that creep on the earth, these you shall not eat, for they are an abomination. So snakes, lizards, worms, maggots, abomination. Okay? Verse 43, you shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creeps, nor shall you make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. Verse 44, for I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore consecrate yourselves, and you shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Verse 45, For I am the Lord who brings you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. Verse 46. This is the law of the animals and the birds and every living creature that moves in the waters and of every creature that creeps on the earth. Verse 47. To distinguish between the clean and the unclean and the clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. So for those of you that are still keeping up with the laws that are listed in the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible, we stopped, I think, at Leviticus chapter 4. So there were 19 laws in Leviticus chapters 5 to 10, right? There were 19. I'm going to read a few of them. I'll just read all of them. The offering of one who unknowingly used sacred property, the guilt offering when one is uncertain if he has sinned, the guilt offering for a definite guilt. The next one, returning stolen property and adding 20%, right? Remove the ashes from the altar, keep the fire burning on the altar, the priestly meal offering each day, eat the remainder of the meal offerings. Do not allow the meal offering to become leaven. Do not eat the priest's meal offering. Eat the remainder of the sin offering. Eat the remainder of the guilt offering. Eat the peace offering. Do not eat sacrificial meat that became impure. An impure person may not eat sacred meat. Do not eat the sacrifice offered with improper intention. Okay, do not eat leftover sacrificial meat past this time. I think on the 3rd day you could not eat it. Priests must not enter the sanctuary intoxicated. That's from Leviticus 10 and 9. Priests must not render rulings while intoxicated. Okay, and so there are 11 in this chapter, in Leviticus chapter 11. There are 11 laws from the 613 laws. These are called kosher laws. And they're called kosher laws because the kosher word in Hebrew literally means fit or permitted or proper, right? So kosher laws are the rules that determine which foods are fit or proper for the Jews to eat according to the Torah, according to the Jewish law. Okay, so the ones from this chapter is examine signs of kosher animals, examine signs of kosher birds, examine signs of kosher fish, examine signs of kosher locusts. Do not eat non-kosher animals. Do not eat non-kosher fish. Do not eat non-kosher birds. Do not eat swarming flying insects. Do not eat creeping land creatures. Do not eat worms or insects from produce. Do not eat creatures that live in the water but lack fins and scales. Okay, that was the ones from this chapter. And so remember that the only laws of the 613 that we still observe as non-Jewish people, right, are the moral and spiritual laws, right? Because those moral and spiritual laws still fall under the 2 commandments that we are commanded to keep, which is love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbors as ourselves, right? So Jesus tells us in Mark chapter 7 that nothing that enters the man from the outside can defile him pertaining to the food, right? And so Christ fulfills that dietary boundary and then teaches us to instead focus on the heart condition, right? So you can see this in Jesus' teachings beginning in Matthew. Once we get to the New Testament, all of this will be explained, what we can eat, what we can't eat, if that still applies to us. But just for reference, the laws that apply morally and spiritually, those still fall under those first 2 laws that we are required to keep in the New Testament, right? So that concludes Leviticus chapter 11. Stay with us for Leviticus chapter 12. God bless.